Good morning, everybody. Hope y'all doing good. It is a Tuesday, and we are about to jump into Matthew 18. Um, we won't be too long. Today is Tuesday because I have a class I have to get to teach. So I have to be at that class at 11. So I have for about 45 minutes that I can be here. But again, it's not a very long chapter, and it's pretty straightforward. In fact, one of the stories in there and the parables in there is one that's super well known. Almost everybody knows it, so it's not going to be a convoluted or complicated chapter to get into. But we'll get right into it. Chapter 18 of Matthew. Who is the greatest? At that time, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Then Jesus called a little child to him, set him in the midst of them, and said, "Surely I say to you, unless you are converted and become as little children, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." I want to pause there. What is the trending thing in church today? The trending thing in church is lauding the pastor, right? We want to hail him as a this and that and a leader and blah, 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 blah. What is the one trait of a child? Dependency. Dependency is the number one trait of a child, and dependency on the parent. So ask yourself, how many pastors do you know that are in full dependence mode as a child? Just look at all the big names that you see around today. Are any of them, do any of them seem dependent on God as a child? The answer is no. I mean, if you have to think about that, then the answer is no. None of them are. Because in their minds, they're on the same level. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one little child like this in my name receives me. Kind of goes against the grain when certain churches preach abortion, doesn't it? Anyway, but whoever causes one of these little ones to who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of offenses, for offenses must come, but woe to the man by whom the offenses come. Now, this term and this verse can go both ways, I believe. One, to the offending of children, and two, to the offending of young believers or infant believers. Um, we seem to want to separate his analogy here, and he is equally talking about both. He's talking about both. He's talking about care for the children because he's also mentioned before in taking care of the orphan, but he's also talking about the young infant Christian and the people at the helm who are supposed leaders or even people who are seasoned in the church who lead them astray. Which is why it's vital for preachers to stay the course and not preach something awry like a lot of these mega pastors do. On this flip side, for the little kids, the offending of a child, and we know what we mean by that, that punishment is still just as severe. But you still find churches that preach it as okay. Make that make sense. If your hand or foot causes you to sin, cut it off and cast it from you. It would be better to enter into life lame, or maimed, rather than having 2 hands or 2 feet to be cast into everlasting fire. And if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out and cast it from you. It is better for you to enter into life with one eye rather than having 2 eyes to be cast into hellfire. Seems a little bit drastic, doesn't it? Would you think that's drastic? Let me ask the simple question. Is it too drastic? Or is there something else he's trying to say? Here's what I believe this means. If you are not willing to go to that length to cast sin from you, then you're not ready to follow him. But what is the very first thing he asks you to do in order to enter the kingdom anyway? Die, right? Die. But if you are attributing your sin to your arm or you're attributing it to your eye, then pluck it out. Cut it off. But if you realize that your entirety of your body is worth casting into hellfire, then you would see the value in dying to self. You'll see the value in it when you realize there's nothing worth salvaging in the body. You blaming, oh, if I only could control my eyes. I've heard people say that. If I just could control my eyes, if I could just control my hand and picking up cocaine and drugs and drinking, if I can just control my legs and go into the prostitution, if I can just control. Are you at the point where you think, okay, if I'm doing this, I have to put some measures in and I'm going to blindfold myself when walking? Look, I've had I told you I went to a program back in 04 for pornography. And they tried these particular tactics, okay? So one of them was you have glasses. If you wear glasses or even shades, they would give you these little sidewall things to put on almost like a safety plastic to put on the side of the glasses, but it would be heavily tinted so you couldn't see in your periphery. And what they were making you aware of is that the second glances were a big problem. So what they would do is that if you'd have to turn your head, it would be a lot harder for you to turn your head than it would be to glance. So they take away that glancing issue so that you wouldn't be using your periphery to take a second look. The other thing they would give you is a rubber band. So anytime you thought of something, you'd pull it and snap it on your body to make you feel that instinctual pain to stop thinking a certain way. The problem with that is this. One can easily become desensitized to the action of doing stuff. So what if I decided one day I wasn't going to pull this rubber band and it wouldn't hurt me? And then that way I don't have to worry about it, but I'll still think the same thing I'm thinking. It tells me that two things haven't happened. I haven't died and I haven't renewed my mind. But I'm banking on the flesh to stop fleshing. Like, what sense does that make? The only way you can do it is to what? Cut it off and cast it away. Now, if you realize what it says, it'd be better for you to enter into life lame and maimed rather than having 2 hands and 2 feet to be cast into life. So either way, the hand you cut off, the foot you cut off, the eye you pluck out is going to be cast into fire. Which tells me the body's not salvageable. The body simply isn't salvageable. You'd be removing body parts until you became nothing at this point. Death to self is the only way out of this. Period. Take heed that you do not despise one of these ones, for I say to you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. For the Son of Man has come to save that which was lost. What do you think if a man has 100 sheep and one of them goes astray? Does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one who is straying? And if he should find it, assuredly, I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Even so, it is not the will of the Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Now, I know plenty of you have heard that parable before, the parable of the 99 and leaving the one. And that thing has been taken into all kinds of crevices and storylines and thought processes and stuff. I've even heard this go to the extreme of talking about, someone who is so lost that they decided that they were going to stay that way, but he'd still chase after you. That's not what this is saying, though. That is not what this is saying. Did this say that that sheep left the pack, despised the pack, did not want to go back to the pack? No, it said it went astray. Astray, lost its way. Not wasn't seeking, lost its way. Not rebelled, lost its way. There's a big difference. The shepherd goes to find the sheep that was astray. You know what happens when that same sheep sees the shepherd? It doesn't run away from it. The sheep does not run away from the shepherd because it went astray. In fact, it's been trying to find its way back. Don't conflate the two. Don't conflate the two. Moreover, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained a brother. But if he will not hear you, take one or two more, that by the word of two or three witnesses every word may be established. And if he refuses to hear them, tell it to the church. But if he refuses to hear the church, let him be to you like a heathen or a tax collector. Herein lies, I think, many of the problems people have with um, certain YouTube ministries that call out individuals, my platform included. Now, I want you to see the process for if a brother sins against you. Big difference, please. Okay, massive difference. I want to make sure I find this correctly. I want you to find this really, really quickly here. I want to see if this is the one I'm thinking of here. Mm-mm-mm. All right, here we go. In 2 Peter, the difference between this verse talking about sinning against you and what a lot of the ministries here on YouTube do is this massive difference here. One is sinning against me, and one is sinning directly against the word of God. But there were also false teachers among the people, even as there will be false teachers among you who will secretly bring in destructive heresies, even denying the Lord who brought them, and bring on themselves swift destruction. And many will follow their destructive ways, because of whom the way of truth will be blasphemed. By covetousness, they will also exploit you with deceptive words. For a long time, their judgment has not been idle, and their destruction does not slumber. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah, one of 8 people, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood of the world of the ungodly, and turning the city of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them to destruction, making them an example to those who afterward would live ungodly, and delivered righteous Lot, who was oppressed by the filthy conduct of the wicked, for that righteous man dwelling among them tormented his righteous soul from day to day by seeing and hearing their lawless deeds. Then the Lord knows how to deliver the godly out of temptations and to reserve the unjust under punishment for the day of judgment, and especially those who walk according to the flesh of the lust of uncleanness and despise authority. They are presumptuous, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignitaries, whereas angels who are greater in power and might do not bring the reviling accusation against them before the Lord. But these, like natural brute beasts, made to be caught and destroyed, speak evil of the things they do not understand and will utterly perish in their own corruption. None of this so far is telling you to go speak to them. Just want to make something abundantly clear. And will receive the wages of unrighteousness as those who count it pleasure to carouse in the daytime. They are spots and blemishes, carousing in their deceptions while they feast with you, having eyes full of adultery, and they cannot cease from sin, enticing unstable souls. None of this is like a brother who sins against you. There is a marked difference in approach when a person is a false teacher. There is nothing that says I need to go directly and speak to them in private about it. In fact, it says directly that there is a judgment reserved for them, just like the angel sent to hell. Not what I say, that's what he say. That's what he say. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. But if he will not hear you, take one, two, or more, and that by the word of two or three witnesses, every word may be established. Mr. Rogers likes to use that term when it doesn't apply to him because he's a false teacher. What applies to him is 2 Peter, not Matthew 18. And if he refuses to hear him, tell the church. But if he refuses to even hear the church, let him be like to you a heathen and a tax collector. Assuredly, I say to you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, to you, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered in my name, I am there in the midst of them. People like this first, that they'll love 19 and forget 20. But if they do include 20, they only put in where two or three are gathered in my name, or they'll put where two or three are gathered, I am in the midst of them. They'll leave this in my name thing out a lot. Do you notice that? Again, the binding on earth and the loosening in heaven and the loosing on earth and the loosing, all of it has to be linked to one very important thing. In my name. They don't want that part. They do not want in his name. In his name is trouble. In his name is trouble, because what you're leaving it up to is not what you want, but what he wants. They can't afford that because they want what they want. They want it more than what he wants, and they're not willing to consult him about what he wants. They're not willing to be open about what he wants. They take it and say, whatever I ask for, I'm going to get. In fact, if two of us ask it, we're definitely going to get it. They forget. In my name. And if his name is not the stamp on it, you're not getting it. How do you get to be in the name? You have to be in the fellowship. How do you get to be in the fellowship? You have to be in the life. And how do you get into the life? You have to pass through death. But nobody wants to die. Ronnie Coleman was famous for saying, everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but nobody want to lift this heavy weights. Nobody want to lift the heavy weights, but everybody want to be a bodybuilder. Everybody want to get a blessing from the Father, but nobody want to be in his name. That's how it is with these people. They want their name. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But as he was not able to pay, his master commanded that he be sold, and his wife and children, and all that he had, that the payment might be made. The servant therefore fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. And the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. So that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you all. And he would not, but went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what he had done, they were very grieved, and came and told their master all that he had done. Then his master, after he had called him, said to him, You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Should you not have also had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you? And his master was angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So my heavenly Father will also do to you if each of you from his heart does not forgive his brother his trespasses. It's just weird that Miss Sheila has just gone to the same spot I was about to go to. I used to think I had to pull everyone who I had a disagreement to the side. That's not biblical. Yeshua said, Who is my brother? Who is my mother? But one that does the will of my Father. Thank you for that. Society today has led us to believe that anybody that goes to church is a brother, is a sister. Society, not the church. Society has told you that anybody who says, I'm a Christian, is your brother. Anyone that says it. In fact, they could have a completely contrary doctrine. It doesn't matter. It's your brother. No, it matters. It matters. 100% it matters, especially if that doctrine is not about the will of God. Especially when they lie about the will of God. If they lie about the will of God, they are not a brother. If every 5 minutes the will is, yes, we are going to, but God wants you to have money. It's not the will of God. Where'd you find that in the will of God? I'm not going to call just any random person who says they're a Christian my brother. That's not how this works. But because you say you go to church, no, that doesn't make you a brother either. That's like somebody coming up to me and says, Hey, is your last name Brown? Yeah, my last name is Brown. We must be family. No, that's not how this works. Because you have my last name, that means you're, no, sorry, no. You're just because you have my last name, or better yet, you have my first name or brother. No, that's not how this works. In my family, I have one brother left. And it's more than just name. We have something deeper, something innate to us that links us as family, brother. And you know what that is? Mom and dad. We share the same mom and dad. Just because you say this is what you are does not make it so. We have to start understanding something, okay? It is not bad. It isn't. In fact, it is only wise to figure out who your brother is. It's only wise. because you could be walking hand in hand with somebody who does not know your father. And the end result will be somebody that could pull you away from your father. Why do you call me Lord and don't do what I say? You could be hanging out with 2 or 3 people, but they're not in his name, but you are. You could be risking a lot hanging out with people who are not brethren. This investment that you have on the human level matters more than you might think. Because if you don't know the boundaries of where the brotherhood lies, you could be doing something that's completely contrary to the body. You could be introducing a whole different thing and contaminating things. It may sound separatist, but it is, because we're supposed to be separate. We are called away from, set apart. They can call you all kinds of names for doing that, but it's biblical. Not supposed to be friends with the world. This is why I have an issue with people having these terms of belief structures. Like, I absolutely despise, and I mean the word despise, when you ask somebody something about their faith, and the first thing they go to is a denominational tag. I'm a Baptist. I'm an Anglican. I'm a charismatic. I'm a Pentecostal. I'm a Calvinist. I'm a this. I'm a that. I'm of Paul. I'm of Peter. And you have all these varying tributaries of gospel and doctrine, all man fabricated. And all of them seem to be completely contrary at some points to the word itself, because they have their own interpretation of the word. Again, I am no I'm not like a master's degree holder in doctrine and anything like that. But the Bible is so stinking straightforward. I don't know how you could mess it up. The only way people are confused about the book is when they try to introduce what they want out of it. Not what is in there, what they want. They want to put all kinds of extra stuff on it. This must mean he's talking about this and that. But did it say so? No, but from what inference are you? Well, just read. I don't understand it, but I do, because everybody wants to be special. The instant you have to put a caveat to your belief, then you're not putting God first. If you have to put a caveat, a title, a name, a precursor before believer, you are not following God. I'm sorry to tell you, God isn't preeminent. Something else is as a tag to him. And that's a problem. Cessationist, continuationist, all this nonsense. And I call it nonsense because it is divisive. Why do you need that tag? And it was never mentioned anywhere in the word. But why? Why are we giving designations to something that's first of all, it doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to me. The body is Christ's. We don't get to decide a different name for it all of a sudden because some dude has his own interpretation about a word that isn't even his. How did we get to that point? This is crazy to me. But hey, if you want to think that you can rename God's body and rename if you could do that, I'm waiting. I'm just gonna sit back and watch. I'm waiting to see what happened. I'm just waiting. I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna sit back. How do we get to decide that for the God of the universe? How do we get to that point? How? We make it so difficult for people to find an honest relationship with God because we tell them you need to be a part of this congregation or this belief structure or that belief structure when none of that's listed in the book. It's never said that that's how it works, not once. We give church titles, we give church this, we give church that when it's just locational. All I'm saying is this: the charge that's been put to us is to be children of God. And as a child, to be fully dependent on Him and Him alone, nobody else, just Him. And He's given you everything you need to be able to come to Him for dependency. And in your dependence, He has everything you need for life and godliness. It says so in the book. And I don't understand why this is so difficult for people to understand. Everybody keeps looking to try and be the one child. I'm a number one child. That means I got the biggest gift of all, and I got and every birthday I get is every Christmas I get the first, and every time the dinner is cooked, I get the first meal. That's what we want to be, is that first child. There's one first child. The rest of us are adopted. Ironically, the father is giving you the same seat as his only child. And you still complain that it's not close enough to the front. He is viewing you in the same light because of his firstborn and you being adopted as his child. And that doesn't seem to be enough for people. You want more. You want more. You want to be top dog, specialist, sit at the left and right hand. Tells me a lot about whether or not you've submitted yourself to the death of self to become a child of God in the first place. Something tells me you didn't do that. Maybe you should. Maybe you should. Maybe forget your title. Maybe forget your preeminence. Maybe forget your special spot that you have in your mind about where you are in the kingdom. And realize that initially, what you really are is deserving of death. And that body of death needs to happen so that you can embrace the life that Christ has given you. Maybe that's a thought process you need to have. I don't think we revere, honor, or respect God enough today. I really don't think. I don't think he has the kind of umbrage that people think he does. We don't have reverent fear of him anymore. That's been gone for a while now. I'm not saying everybody, but the majority of churches, there's no reverent fear of God anymore. He's become an ATM, a Santa Claus, a gift giver, Walmart, Walgreens, Woolworths, you name it. He has become a convenience store. A turnstile. You want something, I'm going to ask God for that. I need some money. I'm going to ask God for that. He asked you to die. You done that yet? That's like the kid saying, I want dinner, mom. Did you take the garbage out yet? I don't want to take the garbage out. That's not, I don't need to take the garbage out to eat, but I want you to take the garbage out. How about this? I'm not feeding you till you take the garbage out. That's not fair. I'm your child. You should be feeding me. Just take the garbage out. No, I don't wanna. No, then you don't eat. Or how about you just go clean the kitchen, the dining table, so we can eat? Go sit, go clean the dining table. I don't want to do it, but you want to eat. Yes. And I want this meal. But you're not willing to take the garbage out. No. That's how we treat God. We say we're his child. We go to his house. We're in there. And we don't want to do none of the stuff he asks us to do, but we want all of the benefits. we are something else. I tell you, we are something else, man. We are something else. Mankind, something else. You do realize that a lot of the things he's wanting us to do would be a lot easier if we had just died first. I don't know if you people realize this, but it'd be way easier to accomplish the things of Christ if you were dead. You know, the you part is put out. If all the things that you want, you was put aside, what he wants would be way easier to comply with. Way easier. In fact, the very first thing he wants is that you die. In fact, that is the only way you get in there is through death. Not holding on to you, releasing. So when you look at it that way, how many people are really your brother and sister? If you like you, okay, good, you like you, that's on you. I just want you to know that is not a criteria for being saved. In fact, that is a surefire way to remain unsaved. Again, only advice. Tomorrow being Wednesday, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so I will not be able to be live. Just FYI. Um, so we'll be back on Friday. Um, no, Thursday and Friday, but tomorrow I'll be gone. So we'll pick up at 19 on Thursday and 20 on Friday. So I leave on the 24th of March, which is a Monday. So you'll have a full week to the 21st. We'll have shows up to the 21st. And then from the 24th through the 7th, I'll be gone. So I'll be back live again on the 8th of April. Okay. So the 24th through the 8th, through the 7th, there'll be no shows. 24 through the 7th, no shows. And Thursday, it'll be 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern for Straight Talk. Okay, so I just want to make sure we get that housekeeping out the way so nobody has any further questions about that. Okay, cool. My biggest suggestion, folks, is to stay dead. Stay dead. Being alive to self is not all that it's cut out to be. It really isn't. It's not. We don't know yet, Brenda, about the surgery thing. We're still waiting on a lot of stuff to happen between now and then. So I'll keep you guys abreast about the situation. I'm going to go talk to the bank today, so we'll find out more about that. But I think my suspicion is right that the company that supposedly the issue was with is actually the culprit in all of it. So I'll talk to the bank and find out for sure what the issue was, if they've come to a conclusion. So once I know a conclusion, I will make sure I let you guys be aware so that things can proceed properly and we can um, change the dynamic of what's going on right now with the stuff that Linda set up. So yeah, appreciate you guys, mean it, really do. But I'll be back Thursday morning for another episode, and tomorrow afternoon for Savage Patriots. I'll be back from a doctor's appointment by then. So scrolling at the bottom, you know what to do. Thank you all for all that you've done, all that you help with, and including your attention and your consistency in following God. That's been a great encouragement for me. I'm not going to lie about that. So thank you guys, mean it. So we'll see you guys later in the week. Wisdom calls to you from the streets. So please, please, please find wisdom. Peace. Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die.